Got it. Cool. Well, now we're what, 5 minutes away, 3 minutes away
Three
from
minutes away from the the exact eclipse.
the moon Kazemi.
So we're spending this Zoom meeting to actually propose a new language for, you know, instead of new moon, we'd like to propose moon Kazemi.
Yeah, because it's more of an equality thing. Why can Mercury and Venus have Kazimis and Moon has to be new?
I
What
mean,
is
why
that?
don't we call it New Mercury?
Yeah, why not New Mercury?
We
New.
gotta get rid of the old shit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I can. So check it out. So I
Well,
wrote.
let's just say, right, we're talking about this is the solar eclipse in Libra. So what's happening is we're having a new moon, right? This conjunction. I mean, by my chart, I'm using time passages. By my
Yeah.
chart, when you click on current chart, it is exact right now that we
Yeah.
have the sun and the moon both at 21 degrees and 7 minutes of Libra.
Yeah.
And then the south node is at 24 degrees and 52 minutes. So 3 degrees away is this a partial eclipse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, partial eclipse, right? Because what this means is that the node is the exact point where the orbital plane of the moon around the Earth and the orbital plane of the Earth around the sun are intersecting.
Mm-hmm.
So the new moon is happening. So we have, right, in a line, sun, moon, Earth. But since the nodes are away and it's approaching the south node, so the moon is slightly higher,
Oh, okay.
right? Slightly above the Earth and the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So this is giving us a partial eclipse,
Interesting.
and it's raining where I am here in the
Yeah. The
so
crossing from Oregon down through Texas.
uh,
So we aren't getting the shadow at all.
right,
But
right.
um
Okay, there you go.
but we're not going into astrocartography today, so I don't think that
Right,
really.
right, right. Totally, totally. But I mean, to me, it's always just been important to have a really strong visual and a strong handle on the mechanics, like the kind of observational astronomy aspect of this, because I think that there is something to be found in that, if you have a
Yeah.
little more understanding of like just how things are actually moving and relating to each other physically, it can speak a lot to the archetypes that are at play.
Well, let's get into that. Let's get into literally what a solar eclipse was. So
Yeah,
earlier
cool.
I was thinking, I sat down and was thinking about just the some, I don't know, intuitive symbology from it. And at first, when I was thinking about our view of the sun is being blocked from the moon. And at first I was like, huh, is the moon blocking the sun from us? In a way. But what I ended up with is that it's a ring of fire eclipse, right? So we're gonna it's a you can see the outline of the moon better,
Hmm.
and the sun's energy is spilling over the moon. So what I wrote down was energy of the sun spills over the sides of the moon. You can see the exact shape and capacity of the energetic container as it is today. Moon being a container, energetic sort of thing. You
Okay.
see where it needs to expand to accommodate new energy, and notice when it can contract slash move forward after the energy has been integrated or is no longer present. What do
Ah,
you?
okay. Okay. I like this thing about integration a lot. I really
Mm,
like that. And I think that that really speaks to the fact that we're having an eclipse on the south node as
yeah,
opposed to the north node. I think that really, really
past
speaks to that.
and integrating it to get to the future shit.
Totally, totally. Yeah, because it's like when I've been doing readings, because the way that I originally learned the nodes, I originally learned them from checking out all the Jeff Green stuff.
Yeah.
Jeff Green stuff, it has the language of reincarnation in it, you know? And for me, because the way that I look at astrology generally is we're dealing with a healing art. And I think when you're dealing with a healing art, you actually need to make the languaging and the symbology almost like as neutral as possible,
Yes.
especially when you're doing like, because I do a lot of walk-in readings, right? The stuff in Woodstock is I'm doing walk-up readings. I don't
Yeah.
have any sort of relationship with these people prior to it. I don't know where they're coming from. Even the same thing when I'm doing like large scale one-on-one readings, same situation happens a lot. I don't really know where they're coming. So I tend to, it's just my feeling that like if you start getting into the reincarnation thing, some people really connect with that. I happen to really connect with that too. It's part of why I dug the Jeff Green stuff. I really connected with that languaging, that way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Some people really don't connect with that. And if you use that languaging, I feel like you can easily kind of cut those people off or alienate them a little bit. They're not quite as open to what you're talking about. So when I'm doing these readings, don't have as much time to like get into the depth if it's a shorter reading or something, you know, I will
Yeah.
talk about the South Node is a thing that's already integrated for you, you know,
Mm.
something that feels safe, it feels secure, it feels normal. You may feel like it's almost like regenerative to you, you know, in times of like stress when you're really getting into a lot of new things, you kind of return to that space. It's also a
Oh,
space that if you're there too much, it can become stagnant for you, you know? So I think what you're talking about here, this idea about like the container of the moon, seeing the things that need to be integrated, you're getting into something that I think really speaks to the fundamental aspect of the South Node, which is about integration, you know? Whereas the North Node is like something that it's almost like something more long range that you're trying to integrate over the course of a lifetime, you know? So I almost
I
kind of look at it as like a long range, short range sort of thing, where the South Node is about like maybe even reflecting, you know, and you can't see the sun. So you're looking at the reflective light body in the sky, right? Right? The
right.
moon is not inherently light, it only reflects light.
Mm-hmm.
So reflecting on all of the things that have come to you through a North Node eclipse or a North Node transit and
Yeah.
integrating those in the moment, as opposed to a time when there's an eclipse on the North Node and it's more about like, what am I trying to do? What am I heading for?
Well, and the interesting part with the eclipse is the sun is lighting up the side that is normally dark.
The sun is lighting up the side.
Because the moon is always facing us with the same side because its orbit is the same speed as, or its rotation is the same speed as the orbit, so we're
What?
always seeing one side of the, and so what we see in the sky is always, well, I guess this is with every new moon.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's different about this with every?
Yeah, I guess it's the same. I've been running into this a lot. I'm like, oh, I'm just learning more about what a new moon means in a way.
Totally, totally.
So take that and put its significance in what a solar eclipse is. I mean, it's during the daytime. So, in my thinking of Libra, because we're in Libra, it being more of a social, like relationship based sign, and now this eclipse is in the sky during the day, it's going to pertain to outside of self in a way. But
Huh.
but
Okay.
in the inside of self, since we're in the second half of the zodiac now, going inward.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um, so oh yeah, okay. This is just gonna I'm just gonna read the rest of my delineations because we're here.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
it's short. Um, so Okay, so I just wrote down, new moon, sun is inseminating the moon with new energy to be made manifest into physical reality. Libra, to not realize itself in a vacuum, putting the newfound importance of things outside of self into practice. So my delineation between the two is how fortified is your emotional container slash your own individuality. Maintain focus on your inner emotional stature when receiving external stimuli and note what arises about your own identity. Find the interdependence between yourself and important people around you. Giving is a two-way street, right?
Huh. Yeah. 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 I dig that.
It lines up with my life significantly because I recently have been have been receiving tests, it feels like, from the universe for my own restraint and my testing my own um moral structure and what how I move in the world. And I ended up doing a bunch of stuff that was very healthy for me, and that led me to starting a new relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right on the harvest moon. And now that we're in Libra, I'm being tested with echoes of an old relationship that I need to let go of, like kind of traumas, and
Mm.
um, needing to make space for this new relationship and actually react to the stimuli that she is. And every time I shed the past and am able to be fully present, she's a mirror. I just start seeing myself in more vivid color. If I'm ardent with it, if I'm
Yeah.
late about it, I get sucked in and I'm like, oh, what am I doing? Like, whoa, this feels really good. But like, is she feeling stuff? Like, what is happening? But if I just maintain in my own individuality, it becomes about my growth and me. And that's what she reflects back to me in her experience too. It's like, holy shit, we're both on our way to interdependence, which is
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
the symbiotic mutual exchange of care and being and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
to then, yeah, so there's that. I think especially that we're toward the end of Libra, it's as if we're seeing the reflection is becoming more clear and more. I can pretty much see it in the mirror. And in Scorpio, I'll be like it's highlighting what I'll need to let go of in Scorpio, right? In the like purging, letting go for rebirthing a new life to then go on the exploration that is Sagittarius,
Right.
right?
Dig. Okay. I dig
Dream
that. Yeah.
of me.
Yeah, I really, because we've been now talking about this stuff for a few weeks,
Yeah.
and I've been enjoying the way that you think about like the signs in order constantly. Like, what sign
Yeah.
is going to go into next? What sign is this going to go into next? How can I kind of make this storyline out of the signs, which is it's pretty slick. That's
Yeah.
really cool, you know. Um, but yeah, I think that one sec. What do you need? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. No, we're just doing a Zoom thing. Okay. Yeah, yeah. All right. I think we'll edit that part out. um, yeah. I
The
think
sto-
what you were talking about was really slick with the relationship thing, and you're talking about releasing releasing this dependency side from relationships.
sure.
And it's
Yeah.
funny because I didn't even think about this until you started talking, and it's like it's kind of echoing to me what I was just talking to you about on the phone a minute ago, right before we started the video
Hmm.
call, right? Of you know there was somebody in my life that brought a certain kind of vibe, and that's ended, and it's very apparent to me in this moment how the energy of my life has shifted,
Yeah.
not having that, right? And I mean, I really think lately about relationships, not as much in like psychological terms, but more in kind of like energetic terms, you
Hmm.
know? And I really think about like uh, matchups of energy and the type of creation that can come out of those things.
Hmm.
So it's been really on my mind, and just seeing how that's changing, through the absence of this one particular relationship, and then the introduction to many others. Uh,
Yeah.
this sort of thing, Uh, and I like the moon thing that you're talking about too. The kind of on a more general level, what I'm getting is it's like it is very feeling based. How do you feel about the relationships that are occurring, and how are you
Yes.
like meeting your emotional thing? You're more just like, this is my kind of emotional space, and how are
And I
you
was going to say
meeting
there's
that
the
with these other
yang
people?
that is the space that the emotions exist in.
You were thinking about the what as the space? It cut out.
Oh, that's and what you were saying was very yin in the feeling and allowance, but then the space you just mentioned is the yang part of it that I've been thinking about. So like you need this
Huh?
safe space in order for the emotions to really unfold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's how
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Oh, that's
understand
interesting, man. You could
the
almost
moon.
think about the eclipse as like it gives you a moment to, right? The sun is yang, the
Uh-huh.
ascendant, the moon is yin, the reflective, the receptive. It
Yeah.
gives a moment for the yin to literally block the yang, and gives you a moment to reflect and decide, where are you going to allow the yang energy to go, right? Because
And you're looking
you
in
have
this
total control. You have options if you want to be in that space of,
mm,
there is a yang energy out here that I'm able to interact with. Where do I want to direct this in my own energy field, in my life, this type of thing.
yeah. And I think particularly in Libra, seeing yourself in a mirror and in the eclipse where you're behind the container, literally seeing where it spills over the edges, you can
Yeah.
really determine in what ways you can be involved or where
Mm.
you need to work on yourself, where if there's any holes or if there's any weaknesses. And this is what I was saying about as it moves across the sun, there are parts that you need to let go of because it's or over here because it's not in the sun anymore. It's not receiving energy. So you can move that space to over here to get more energy. Well, it's like the change of
Huh.
your container.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Totally.
like in
Totally.
Libra, we started to see the leaves really change colors and fall. In Virgo, I mean, at least where I'm at in Tennessee, when the second Virgo started, you realize, oh, the leaves might be changing now. And then in Libra, it's like the leaves are changing a lot. Like, yeah, we're starting to lose leaves, in fact. And in Scorpio, ultimately, we'll let go of all our leaves
Right.
because if us as trees, if we keep putting our energy into these leaves, then we won't have energy to conserve within ourselves to survive the cold.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn to celebrate this celebration of fall in the death of Halloween in October, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but very important for emotional development.
Right. Right. Totally. This is interesting. This is one point that I'm thinking a lot about, because you're talking about like the letting go in Scorpio. And I do
Yeah.
thinking about like, to me, the symbolism of the South Node, and this idea about like integration and also letting go is even stronger from the South Node to me.
Yeah.
That's I feel like that's something of this moment. That's not something that's like coming in Scorpio. I feel like that's actually something that is very much of this moment, this
That's
letting go sort of thing. Because I've heard quite a few people, um, I think Austin Coppock talks about this a lot. He talks about the South Node as being a letting go. It's the tail of the dragon, right?
yeah.
Is where it excretes from, right? The head of the dragon is eating, the tail of the dragon is excreting.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
So when there is a process in that of like, right, what happened? You eat food, you integrate all the good stuff, you integrate the nutrients, the calories, and then you
Hmm.
excrete the waste product of that. And that process does feel very at play. To me, it feels very at play at this moment in my life.
Sidebar, your body isn't always able to absorb all the nutrients also. And it decides when it has tried to absorb all that it can and then let
Sure.
go what it
And so maybe that's why we still have a ring of light around the moon. It spills
what's
over,
still over.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's all in.
In the words of Milford Graves, you can't get it all, man.
Yeah, exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
which is totally true. And I do feel like there's a heavy element to eclipses. I keep noticing this. I for me, because I haven't been studying astrology deeply for so long. It's only been a few years. And I remember the fall of 2021, we were having eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio. Those were the first eclipses that I was really, really noticing and thinking about, like, what are the archetypal dynamics that are happening at this moment?
Yeah.
And looking back, the eclipses themselves were like such a download time. I remember having like, I usually don't have dreams. I usually don't remember my dreams.
Yeah.
So that's alone, just to have a dream and remember
Yeah.
it, like pretty, it's prominent. That's a
Yeah.
big thing for me. I had extremely vivid dreams on a couple of those eclipses.
Hmm.
Um, so in retrospect, I remember thinking like, man, it's really just like kind of a big download time at the moment of the eclipse.
Were those interacting with the North Node by chance?
That would have been North Node in Taurus and South Node in Scorpio. The one I
Okay.
I actually can't remember right now on off the top of my head the one in particular that was like wildly vivid. It was like not just vivid, it had the feeling of like uh jumping to an astral plane, and there was the feeling of like, I know that this other person is on the astral, this like same plane, you know what I mean, like we've
Oh,
both dreamt into the same zone. Yeah,
whoa.
this kind of thing. And I can't remember now if that was the solar eclipse or the lunar eclipse, but it would have been, sun was in Scorpio, so sun dealing with the South Node. I just can't remember if the moon was with it in Scorpio or if it was in Taurus on the other side.
Okay. Well, I would ask because I think I had a very South Node dream recently. A similar thing. I haven't been dreaming very intensely. I've been known to, but the other day, this wasn't a downloading of information dream. This was whoa, like I need to let go of this type dream. I it was I had two of them about like a week apart, and they were both about me losing my identity.
Mm.
And one was less extreme. It was more, the first one was less extreme. It was more about I had just set up my studio in a new house. I had these roommates. I opened a door and it showed like a bunch of people that were behind in a way. They were like still in this place of um being out in the world living with 20 roommates and stuff, and I was in like a more solid stable house. But then I looked out the window and saw things I like to do and things I'm interested in, but they were behind a window. And it was really interesting. But there's the conflict in there was I was signed up, like my friend this person I know who is a chronic compulsive liar in my dream had signed me up for a shift that I didn't want to do. And I was like, why are you trying to gaslight me for doing this thing that I didn't want to do? I was very angry and upset and that I was stuck with this person. But I moved on from that and let go of it because they don't really affect me unless I allow it. So anyway, that was kind of a purging anger based dream, noticing what's outside of me and what I am letting go or can let go of.
Mm-hmm.
Second dream, I had this dream that my studio was being deconstructed by people that I didn't know because like my landlord had done something and I just came home and all my stuff was gone forever. The studio was being deconstructed and in the man, I was scream crying in my dream. Like I was just like so angry and just sad and just like like I mean this is some like letting go of trauma stuff, you know. And I remember like they and it was about the stuff inside short mostly my saxophone. They had stolen my saxophone and there was no way I could get it back. All I had was my flute and my alto, and I don't give a shit about those compared to my baritone. My baritone has been with me for since eighth grade, you know, and I remember I was at a point where I was going to play a show in the dream, or like I was a feature, and some person had done a really cool like solo with pedals and stuff, and then it was like going to be somebody else's turn, and then my turn, and I'm looking at my alto and my flute, and I'm like, no, there's no way I can deal with this because I just lost everything, and I left the venue and walked down the street and just cried more about losing like what I had lost in my studio. And that was really it. I woke up and I was like, am I doing the wrong thing? Like, is this new relationship just stealing what I have? Like, am I going to lose everything and have to sign up for something that I don't want to sign up for? Blah, blah, blah. But what I realized is those are all the things, those are all traumas from my last relationship that I didn't know were happening at the time. And I think that if I can let go that what I'm engaged, if I can let go of all that, I can realize that what I'm currently engaging in is truly new and truly not the old stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
All to say South Node eclipse, letting go of,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
at least determining, because I can't say I can let go of that stuff in 5 days. Those are deep things that I'm going to be working on, habits that are going to show themselves repeatedly, and at least in Libra I'm being shown what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll make a lot of progress in Scorpio of letting go, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting hearing you talk about it because the description that you're giving what's going on for you at this moment with this eclipse feels similar to what was happening for me at the eclipses I just mentioned a moment ago, which was so that's almost exactly 2 years ago, right? It would have been
Oh.
Scorpio season of 2021. It
Huh.
had very much that same kind of feeling. There's this, the vivid dreams, this sort of like realization about the dreams.
Mm-hmm.
At this moment, the eclipses they're not doing that for me. They're not working in that kind of way. So it's interesting hearing you talk about it, because I remember in that time on the Zoom is trying to sell me an upgrade because we're running out of time. It
Of
says
course.
2 minutes left. It's cool. We'll just make another one.
Okay.
Um, at that time of the Taurus Scorpio eclipses, you know, I remember thinking like, oh man, Scorpio, like Scorpio is all about that, psychic capability, what's under the depths, all this stuff. This must be why I'm having such like vivid dreams. And
Yeah.
now I realized, especially in this moment talking to you, it's like, no, it's not really about Scorpio. It's kind of about eclipses. Eclipses
Huh?
just carry this sort of power, you know.
Mm,
But again, and this is like always the case, it's not like it's so inherent that an eclipse is going to give you a vivid dream that is a download or some perspective on your life that gives you an aha moment when you wake up. It's all
mm,
about still what's your own will and how have you been living your life up to this point, right? So like you've been going through a time that you've really gone in a direction that's created a lot of like internal tension for you. There's been a
mhm.
lot of like, whoa, I went down the wrong path or like did, stuff with the wrong
Yeah,
person and
I'll say
really like
that it
create
has
a
to
lot of.
do Chiron, the wounded healer thing. And can you check on your phone? I can't remember if um I'm thinking that the eclipse is opposite Chiron right now, or if it's opposite my Chiron.
Ah, I think I think that Chiron is in Aries because we're born within 3 weeks of each other in '96. I'm almost certain that we are born with Chiron in Libra.
Right,
Chiron is 17 degrees Aries right now.
currently. Right.
Yeah.
So the way I'm connecting to it, I mean, my relationship patterns this year, I let go of my relationship in Aries, the long one, and then now I'm finding a new one in Libra, Virgo, Libra. Um,
Right.
I'm
Which
very,
that's a
very
really curious thing to me too. Yeah, because the eclipses, right? You always hear one of the first delineations of eclipses that people talk about is like major beginnings and endings,
yeah,
right? Which is really, really huge for you right now, right?
time.
And I would have to go back and look at the dates. I mean, right? Because a pretty significant relationship for me ended, oh, it was around the same time, but it wasn't Aries season. It was in Taurus. It was Taurus season of this year. It didn't have the feeling of the eclipses to me in the same way, So these eclipses feel a little more psychological, but it's like we've been talking about this at this moment in my life. Like things are right now, things are flowing much more. Things there aren't so many blockages at this moment. It's more blossoming. So
Mhm.
I'm not having experiences right now of like, the vivid dreams and these like crazy like awakenings and perspectives and stuff like that. So much as it's like, um, I do feel a thing right now, like Aiden, who lives also here at the tavern, right? We've been talking and like, man, it feels like it's time to like get some cats rolling through the place. There is sort of a feeling at this moment of like, it feels like we're entering a new phase at the tavern of
Well,
like,
Libra more
there's
conscious,
kind of been a lot of stuff
right?
going on. There's been, some things that brought a lot of tension. There's also been just like a lot of construction. So, more kind of social things and concerts and all that have been a little stalled, and right now it's like, okay, it's time to like get social, like just bring people through and get the community thing going again.
Right. The
Um,
important others, man. That's the theme
totally,
of
totally.
Virgo, Libra, at least.
Totally, totally. And I think worth noting too, right? So I have Gemini rising. So these eclipses, right, are happening in my fifth and 11th house.
Hmm.
And the 11th very much is dealing with community. So especially when we're talking about the North Node being in Aries, which is my 11th house.
Hmm.
So the North Node being in this space of community, moving forward with community, coming up with new things around that.
Big theme for you.
Yeah, that's a big one right now, and the energy is pretty chill. I mean, I was just talking to Samuel on the phone because we played last night, and I was like, man, it's flowing. That's
Hmm.
that's a huge theme right now. And the eclipses right now, they have that same sort of feeling. They feel like they're just flowing, you know.
It's harvest season.
Things are
All
just
the apples are picked.
totally, yeah, and things are just they're just changing, you know. And even though it is large and big scale, it for me it's not carrying the psychological or emotional intensity that the eclipses can bring, you know.
Yeah.
But again, I look at that as like, you know, how has my life been going up until this moment, you know? And there has been just major shifts in the last 6 months. There's no doubt about that. So, you know,
Yeah.
I think there is something colored by the eclipses there. But
Yeah.
in
It's
a
like,
way, leading up to this one that's happening right now, there's kind of been all this preparation where it's like the eclipse itself is like, yeah, just kind of like letting some stuff go and then new things are coming in.
hmm yeah, it's not so much a call to action as it is a call to what has been and
Yeah,
how, like
yeah,
for me and for a couple people I've talked to in respect to relationships, like we were doing the necessary personal growth. Like I'm thinking about an apple going from like blossom to fruit. It's just like a lot of internal changes, and then metamorphosis is occurring, and now we're apples and are being picked. But it's like,
mm,
what is the state of this tree that the apple's coming from?
yeah,
It's yeah. So this eclipse not a call to action, more of a big, like a very honest check in, and notes to be taken on how to sustain.
yeah, yeah.
You
That's
know, we're
that's
seeing
what
the our
this is
container, how
right
it's changed,
now.
what needs to change.
Totally. Yeah, that totally speaks to something for me right now.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean, we have uncanny mirrors in our lives
I
with
know, I know, I know.
chips moving, building.
Yep, yep, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, definitely the sustainability of relationships. You know, I mean, the way that I conceive of relationships, you know, especially romantic relationships, has been drastically changing recently. You know,
Yeah.
it's been, I mean, George and I were talking about it, you know, and he said something, and this was in the summertime, right? So we're not talking about something that's like necessarily happening at the moment of eclipses, you know. But
Yeah.
it, in a way, it does have the feeling of leading up to this eclipse, right? You
I
know,
mean,
he said
this is where our Saturn returns too, might I add. So this
yeah,
Saturn
right. That's true. Right. So there is that added,
moving toward.
yeah, there's that added element. Totally.
Hmm
Yeah, but he commented about um he was like there's like this sort of shackle thing that you had around relationships that kept you bound.
Yeah.
It's like you just like let that go. It's not
Yeah.
there. He's like you're way
The
freer.
thing I'm doing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Zoom is telling me less than a minute, so I'll email you another link.
All right. Do it. Yeah. Deshackling.